Hey guys, no fancy intros today. We are just going to get right into the main point of this video because literally these tomatoes can't take it another minute. And today's subject is going to be pruning and trellising your tomatoes. Now, this video is for indeterminate tomatoes, not determinate tomatoes. If you look on the label of your plant, it should say, or the seed packet. If it doesn't, there's not a way that I know of that's foolproof to know whether it's an indeterminate or determinate type without it saying it. So you can Google the name of the variety if you have that, but not whether it's an indeterminate, and it will tell you. Okay, so indeterminates are tomato type varieties that grow and grow and grow and really don't have a stopping point. They will grow until the cold weather kills them. So if you have a long growing season, you're going to get a lot more out of your tomatoes. Determinate type, which are like aroma tomato, they grow about 3 to 4 feet and are genetically designed to stop. And at that point, they're going to produce their fruit, and it's going to be pretty much all at one time, and then they're done. Whereas indeterminate will keep producing as long as they're alive. Now, a determinate plant, you are not going to prune very much, if at all. So this is, like I said, for indeterminate. So what we want to do, I'm going to be very hands-on here. You do not want to wait until they get this big. But as you know, I've had some health issues the last week or two, and so things get put on hold. Life happens. So first of all, why prune anyway? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it allows you to grow more types of plants or not types of varieties of tomato in a smaller space because you can space them a lot closer together. The big reason though is for airflow. Especially if you live where you have wet summers, there's a much bigger chance for your tomatoes to become diseased. And so if you can increase the airflow through the plant, you're going to cut down on that risk. And so we take out the side shoots, which I'm going to get into in a minute. The third reason would be, have you ever had a big tomato plant that's huge, lots of healthy green leaves, or not healthy, but lots of leaves, and not a lot of tomatoes? That's because the tomato sends off side shoots that will produce tomatoes, but not a lot. Most of the main tomatoes that are the nice big ones that you want are going to be produced along the main stem that runs from the ground to the tip of the plant. And so for all of these reasons, we want to take out the side shoots. Now the side shoots are, you're going to find those at what I call the armpit of the tomato. And it is where the main stem meets the leaf. And right there in this armpit, you're going to see a new growth that you want to pinch off. It's pretty big. Now, here's what you can do with these. You can put these in a jar of water, and they will grow roots, and you can plant them somewhere else. I don't have a lot of room for that, so these are just going to go into the compost. So we've taken this one off. Now here's the next armpit. There's a big sucker coming out here. We're going to pull that off. And actually, if we move around this side, you're going to see an even bigger one from this first joint down here that grows up. So we're going to take that one off as well. Now I know it looks like we're harming the plant. We really are not. So moving back up the stem, you might just see little starts like this. You just want to take those out. Here's another one right here. This one's a little bigger. Take that out. And that's it for now. And you're going to want to do that everywhere you see a side shoot, all the way up the plant for the entire growing season. Now, this is not to be confused with the truss of flowers that will hopefully eventually produce the tomatoes. The truss of flowers is not going to be coming from an armpit. It is going to be right off of the main stem. Now, you can take off the first truss of flowers, and if these were smaller, I probably would have done that just to focus more energy on the growth at the beginning, take off the first truss. But because these are a little further ahead and literally these are already completely open blooms, I'm going to leave them. Now, a couple of problems you might run into while you're doing your pruning would be if you waited too long, like I did, you might have a situation at the top of the plant where it forks and you're not really easily able to tell which is the side shoot and which is the main branch that's continuing. They're going to look almost identical. What you're going to look for is that armpit. and it's going to be more open because of the way that the growth has happened. But the one that's coming off, and usually it's the one of the two in the fork that don't have the flowers at the top, that's the one you're going to take off. Worst case scenario, you leave them both on and trellis both of them, and that would be okay. Just continue to take the side shoots off of each of those. Now, if you get a little crazy or have a mistake and you accidentally break off the growing tip of the plant, not all is lost. It might not produce as much as it would have, but what you can do is wait for a side shoot to grow out, maybe the armpit below that or the one below that, and just train that one up as if it were the main stem. Now at this point, we're going to come through here and we're going to take off some of the lower leaves, especially the ones touching the ground. And they might still be green right now. But what's going to happen is you have a much bigger chance of the pathogens getting on those lower leaves and spreading that infection to the rest of the plants. So I'm going to take off the bottom 6 to 8 inches of leaves on these plants. Any of them that are touching the ground, they need to be removed. Now throughout the season, you're going to continue to remove the bottom leaves whenever you see any type of yellowing, sickness. Just take the leaves off and head things off at the pass. It is not uncommon for by the middle of June for the bottom 2 feet of my plants to have no leaves, to be standing there naked, sometimes some fruit hanging there by itself. So once that pruning's done, you can see how we've just really opened up the airflow through here. You can also see on the other side that the basil now has a little more breathing room to get big and not be shaded out by all these unnecessary leaves. Now these plants are very sturdy and upright right now, but it won't take long, maybe another foot or so, where they're going to get top heavy and they're going to fall over onto the ground. We want to prevent that from happening for disease reasons, and just aesthetically it looks nicer. So we are going to trellis these. Now if you're growing determinate plants also, like aroma, again, no pruning, and you can use just a standard, one of the larger ones, preferably tomato cages that you can get from the garden center. But for these, we're going to do something a little differently. And I went over this on a video, what was it, a month or two ago, and we talked about these hooks. We're still going to do that, but if you watch my last video, you'll see the hold up on these hooks, but we're not going to worry about that. We're still going to do it the same way that I would always do it, and I'm just going to give you a little workaround to give us a little more time to get these hooks in stock. Now, if you didn't build a trellis like I have here, and I know a lot of you have, you've sent me pictures, and I love seeing all that, but if you haven't, I'm going to link the video to show you how to do that up at the top, and down in the description of the video, I'll have it as an end card at the end of the video as well, or an end screen link. So I'm not going to get into that on this video. So what we're going to need for this is either landscape staples or some heavy, semi-heavy gauge wire that's bent in half, and you're going to need some string, not kite string, and the brown twine that looks all natural, that doesn't work well either. Before the end of the season, it gets rotted and it snaps with the weight of these. So you want some good heavy-duty string. I don't know what the weight is. It's a nice, good cotton twine. And we are going to put that landscape staple at the bottom of the tomato plant and tie the string, one end of the string, on there. We're going to loop it 1 or 2 times around that main stem, and then we're going to take it all the way up to the support above. Now here's where we diverge into 2 different ways of doing this. If you live in a growing season that ends, so let's say your frost comes at the end of August, maybe September, early October, then you have a shorter growing season. Early October you might be okay. But if you have a short growing season, you can take the top of this string, tie it right up there on either the wood, or if you put a hook there, and that's it. If you have a longer growing season like I do, and you don't get frost ever, or maybe end of October, November, December, then that's a long growing season, and you can get a lot more tomatoes out of your plants. But what we're going to do with these hooks. But like I said, a lot of you aren't able to get the hooks right now, and I'm not using them until you can. So what we're gonna do is choose anything that you can find around your house that is round. I'm using a washer. You can use a washer, nuts. You can use zip ties that are zipped into a circle, anything that is a circle. And we're gonna take the string and we're gonna tie it on there. If you're even like a Boy Scout or know how to do fancy knots, you can make like a loop knot. But basically all we want is the string tied to that circle. Then we're gonna take this circle and we're gonna put it up on the hook that we have up above. Now I've only got the umbrella up here for filming purposes. This tomatoes do need good sun. So I'm gonna put the washer over that hook. So when you're finished, you've got the landscape staple, the string looped around a couple of times, and then all the way up and either tied on if you have a short growing season or in some kind of a loop if you have a long growing season. Now, when the hooks actually arrive, all we're gonna do is we're gonna hang this hook on the hook over next to it. We're gonna remove the loop that we've got. At this point, our plants will probably be a little taller than they are now. And then what we're gonna do is tie this new string from the hook onto the washer or whatever circle you have. So it's going to look like that in the middle. At that point, we can continue on using the hook just like we would. So as the tomato gets to the top of the trellis, you're going to unhook it, turn it over maybe once, maybe twice probably, and you're going to hook it on the hook next to it. And what that's going to do is that's going to lower the plant down each time, because what happens is when the plant would reach the top of the trellis, what do? It flops over, breaks off, it becomes unhealthy, you can't really take care of it anymore. And so every couple of weeks we're going to be moving this hook over. I'm hoping this makes sense. We're moving the hook over and lowering it down a little bit. So by the end of whatever length of growing season you have, you're gonna have a bare stem going around and around. I don't know how many times we can make it around, maybe just once. And the top of the plant will still be producing tomatoes, but you're never gonna have to worry about it hitting the top, breaking off, and getting unruly. It's just gonna keep growing around and pretty much the top staying at the same level because you're lowering it every time you move it. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I did do another video, the same one I was talking about before, and maybe I was able to explain it well, but I think this is pretty good, right? Now, as the tomato plant continues to grow up the string, no matter how you've got it hooked at the top, it's going to grow bigger. And there's two ways where you can fasten this tomato plant to the string. One way is just to simply twist your plant as it grows around the string. Just train it around the string. You want to do this in the middle of the day when the plant is a little less crisp, so if it doesn't snap as easy. Another way to do this is with some hooks or clips. And what these clips do is they fasten to the string with some teeth, and as you close it over the stem, it'll allow the stem to still have room to move and grow, but it will keep it fastened to the string. So that's it. Basically, we're anchoring it to the bottom, growing it up a string, short growing season, ended at the top. Once the plant gets to the top, you want to top the plant to make sure that all the tomatoes that have grown below have time to ripen before the frost comes. If you have a longer growing season, we're going to add the additional loop and then eventually the hook. And I'll do another video once we have the hooks in, so we can really kind of go step by step through that. But that's going to be more of a hands-on thing where you're going to want to have your hooks there, and then we can go through it together. So as soon as those hooks are out, I will let you know with a link, and then I'll do another video of really attaching those hooks and kind of continuing on with the process so we can all have a really long, really productive tomato season. Again, thanks everyone for hanging in there with me, and I will see you on Sunday.